Hi everybody, it's Andy from Snow Camp Europe here in Gepron, Austria with another Sunday Ski Cast. So today I'm speaking with Darren Turner of Untitled Ski. Darren is a ski teacher in Serre-Chevalier in France, and he has been around the ski scene for many a year. Not only is he a ski teacher, he used to be a racer, race for the English team or the England team, and he also is a videographer. But before we get Darren on, I just wanted to say thank you again for watching, everybody. Welcome to another Sunday Ski Cast. Those of you who watched last week's, thanks for taking part. Please, as always, do ask your comments ask your questions in the comments below. If you are watching on Facebook, feel free to host a watch party just by clicking the watch party button below. And please do like, share, and comment as always. If you're watching on YouTube, hello to you. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for everything that is going to come up across the summer months on a build up to next winter. So I can see we are already getting some questions in the comments. So I will get Darren straight on because it looks like it's going to be a busy show. So yeah, ask away, folks. Enjoy. Say hello to Darren. And here is the man himself. Good evening, Darren.
Good evening. Bonsoir, everyone. Hello, hello.
Oh, bonsoir. Is that French?
Well, it's supposed to be. Yeah, it's my own dialect, but you know, it's
sounds as good as my German.
Good evening is basically bonsoir. Yeah.
Bonsoir, good evening. So I guess you're sitting in your garden.
I am sitting in my garden. The bells have just stopped, so if it does start going a bit Quasimodo like, it's I'm not a million miles away from the church. So
okay.
It's if we get disrupted by that, it's the way it is. But
well, it's live. As I say, every week we are live. A lot of people have been doing content over the summer months and lockdown, and they've been recording it. This is totally live. If the internet drops out, we'll lose each other, but we'll come back. So as I say, we've already got some comments coming in. But before we start, Darren, just give us a little bit of a brief overview of who you are, what you do, what you've done, where you've been, etc., etc.
Okay, so yeah, originally from south of England, grew up around kind of Aldershot, Guildford area. Started skiing relatively late, at about 14, but once I kind of started, I was, I suppose, the stray cat of the local ski centre, which was Aldershot. So I used to go up there, be a little bit of a cheeky chappy, help them hand out the skis, and probably skied up and down that slope as many times as I could every day of the week. So I kind of got pretty good level fairly quick, just from, I suppose, motivation and wanting to do it. Eventually got into the England schools team and then the England team. A lot of dry slope racing, and ended up being out. I suppose my first full season was in Les Coraux in France. Managed to get a sports scholarship, so a little bit of financial help. And I don't know if you remember Schools Abroad, which was an old tour operator, and they luckily gave me a bit of a job as what's known as an underwater panel beater. So I was washing dishes at night and scrubbing pots and pans, and then training in the day with the England ski team. And then on most of the weekends we would disappear and go off and do international sort of FIS races. But coming to skiing quite relatively late, I know for those people that started when they're adults, 14 sounds young, but to be kind of on an international stage 2 years after skiing, and it's a lot different out there than Aldershot dry slope. It's a bit of a shock to the system, but a good one. And then I got to about 18 and stopped a bit of ski racing. And as most people are aware, you know, it's not the cheapest of things to do. So moved a little bit back out, doing seasons, but running bars, DJing, having a bit of a fun time. And then decided to go back into instructing. So I always did a little bit of all the instructor training at the dry slope. I was always there, 16 years old. So I kind of was let loose with the public, I suppose, quite early. And then, ended up settling in Serre Chevalier, in the southern French Alps, if you don't know where that is. And about, I think 7 years ago, decided to start the ski school app. All that stuff went pretty big on YouTube. And since that, I suppose that was my first kind of film work. And that led me into actually thinking, well, maybe I've got a bit of maybe I'm okay at this. So I kind of kept going.
You found it calling.
Yeah, I suppose, yeah, a little bit, could say that. Being a bit mouthy and skiing.
Okay. Hello.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, cheers.
Right, brilliant. So I'm going to ask you just to quickly go back to the schools abroad bit, because obviously everyone would have noticed that Darren came on a screen on his own. Now that's normally an indication that my dog is kicking off, but on this occasion I realised I was sat in my skanky dirty t-shirt and not my snow camps t-shirt, so I quickly went and got changed. But tell me about the schools abroad bit, because I'm going to tell you something you don't know about me in a second. What was the schools abroad bit?
Well, so I think what happened is that there was some kind of partnership with, I think, the England Ski Federation, and what that allowed them to do was kind of give us some work and accommodation. As I mentioned, ski racing is not the cheapest of things, so it allowed me to have a job. As I said, scrubbing the pots and pans at night, and then training on the mountain through the week. So we'd normally get a good morning session in, and then back down, normally some fitness stuff, stretching, etc. Do the skis, and then I'd be in the kitchen being shouted at. I would have been 16, 17, so about 150 years ago. Les Coraux.
Okay, cool. Right,
so not a million miles away from the plane.
Yeah, my first season was actually working for schools abroad as a ski tech in Upper Austria. Yeah, so I'd been on like several schools abroad holidays and got to know one of their senior managers quite well. And I literally was Angela Minton.
Okay, no, it's not.
And she basically called our school one day and said, "Does he want a job?" Because she knew I was doing my dry slope ski teaching and whatever. And yeah, they gave me a job as a ski tech. So I went to Kendal, to Europa Sports at the time, and the course, and then went on a plane, got to Salzburg, got driven to a resort, and had the best season of my life.
Yeah, I mean, it's just it's great when you said it probably sounds similar to my journey a bit, where you just pinch yourself and think, what am I doing out here? There was a guy. Yeah.
18th, I was only £32 a week. And it was
how much was a beer then, though? That's the question.
Oh, 20 shillings. 20 shillings,
well,
which was about £1. So I could get 32 beers in a week. But what happened, and we're going off the subject here, but what happened was I ended up working for the ski school and I ended up DJing twice a week. So I had more money than I could spend. Anyway, this is not about me. This is about you, Darren. And we have got a lot of comments and questions coming in. So let's kick off with the very first one. And it looks like it's from someone who is looking to get into ski teaching, and his name's John. And he's saying, "Do you have any advice for people wanting to get into ski teaching?"
Yeah, I mean, it's simple. Obviously, it depends on where. Do we know where John is, or is he UK based, or it could be anywhere?
I'm guessing he's UK based.
I think obviously dry slopes in the UK are probably the best place to start, depending on where you are, whether there's an actual snow slope near you or a dry slope. And quite often, a lot of the slopes will be very keen if people want to just do a bit of shadowing to start with, and just try and watch what's going on and learn. I think the main thing is obviously get your skiing on point, but also learn the communication skills, learn how to control a group, and keep them entertained and safe, I suppose, is the best thing. But yeah, definitely if you're in the UK, get yourself to the nearest place you can ski. I'm sure most of the centres still run kind of instructor training. Normally, I think we used to do it at Aldershot, like a couple of hours a week. There'd be a certain day, and people could go along, and then start getting your exams, and just slowly bite away at them and
build it up. Build up.
and build it up.
If John, if you're watching, my question to you would be: do you have a goal in mind? Do you want to work in the mountains? And if so, what country do you want to work in? Because if you have a specific country that you want to work in, then I would say go towards that country's qualification to enable you to work from the earliest point. But as Darren has said, get down a dry slope or an indoor slope and start learning the trade now. Start volunteering, start doing your lower level qualifications and get some hours
Yeah,
in.
and that's it. And I think a big point is you don't need to be in the mountains to become a good communicator, people skills, all that sort of thing. You know, I still think people skills sometimes are overlooked. It's a little bit more on how good a skier you are and what qualifications you have, but the connection, which we'll probably talk about later, but the quicker you can make that connection with a guest, client, or customer, whatever, and understand what they want, that's a general skill in every aspect.
I think one of the things you see here in Austria is, and Austria is obviously one of the top skiing nations, and we have some extremely good ski teachers, but we also have some extremely good skiers who are teachers, and they're not necessarily good teachers, and it's because there isn't really an emphasis on people skills, or even a great emphasis on teaching ability. So again, getting that experience back in England on the dry slope and on the snow slopes. For me, on the dry slope was invaluable before I started. Jim is saying get qualified through the English Ski Council. Jim, I think the English Ski Council is now Snow Sports UK, isn't it, Darren?
I'll be totally honest, I wouldn't like to say. It used to be the England Ski Council, yeah, when I was
when John Shedden was in charge.
Yeah, so John Shedden was still very much heavily in charge. But we are talking when, you know, I had
we're talking
Quiff.
a time ago, yeah. I think Jim, that it's now Snow Sports England. I think they rebranded it, or Snow Sports UK. But either way, that is the route that I took. That is partly the route that Darren has took, by the sound of it.
Yeah, and again, regardless of the name, if you pop down, I think get yourself down as any ski centre and start asking the questions. It's like anything, you know, you've got to put the time in, and I think if you're going to offer to shadow and help and learn, as you said, you know, learn the trade, people will probably bite your hand off. Get in there and get the hours.
Exactly. So Carl is saying hi from Belfast. Hello, Carl, mate. How are you? A regular.
Cheers. I forgot to say santé.
Yeah. Prost, Danny H. This is the difference. Ski teacher in Austria, beer. Ski teacher in France, wine.
Yeah, exactly.
Scott Dobson, English Ski Council, as was in those days. There we go, as was in those days. Hello, Scott. Scott was our guest last week. Next question.
Evening, Scott.
Next question. Mary. Mary is asking, what level did you race at? At what level did you race? Yeah.
So had a FIS license. It's basically sort of international FIS license, FIS races. Didn't quite get into that sort of Europa Cup level. As I said, it was all very quick, and turning up in Switzerland and Austria and various different countries, skiing suddenly with these people that have been skiing since they were sort of 2. And also, you know, skiing to a high level was definitely a bit of a daunting thing from a bloke from Aldershot. But yeah, international FIS races. Would have liked to have gone further. Unfortunately, like a lot of people you hear, you know, had an injury on the kind of crunch year when I was about 18. That, you know, that hasn't held me back since. But it was just timing, finance. My parents weren't in a situation where they could throw loads of money at it, so it just became a second. Or I wasn't excited anymore by racing. I suppose it got to a point where I think when you train at anything, if it doesn't feel like training, you put the hours in, and it always just seemed like fun. And then it stopped becoming fun. It got a little bit too serious, and yeah. But it was great because it gave me that foundation as a skier, and to be honest, yeah, finding skiing was an extremely useful thing, because school, etc., for myself wasn't going anywhere. Let's put it like that.
Yeah, I think me and Darren had this conversation a couple of nights ago, and very many similarities, because the people who know me that know that I didn't really do a great deal at school either. Half of the time I tried not to go.
Well, I didn't go a lot, I think, and when I did go, it was normally Saturday and it was closed, so I didn't know that. But it's again, it's one of those things in not getting too deep, but you find something in your life and it worked for me, and luckily skiing kind of happened. My parents didn't ski, so it was all a bit of a chance thing, but I knew straight away pretty much that was what I wanted to do, and that's all I did.
Yeah, my story isn't dissimilar, and I remember going into the careers advice officer, and I lived just inside North Wales. And you were told you were either going to work at British Aerospace, Shot and Steel Works, and there was one other place, I can't remember where it was. You were going in the forces, basically. You're going in the RAF, Army, or Navy. And I went in. She said, "What do you want to do? Like, these are the 5 things on offer." I was like, "I'm going to be a ski teacher." And she said, "Don't be stupid. You can't do that." And 6 months later, I sent her a postcard from my first winter with Schools Abroad saying, "Yes, you can." I'd love to meet her again now, because she was.
I've often joked that. Well, I've often joked that I would like to have my PE teacher and my French teacher to turn up in a lesson, because my PE teacher said that I'd never be good at any sports, and
actually couldn't speak French.
And I said to my French teacher, I actually said to her, "It's a stupid language, and I'm never going to need to speak it." So here I am now, stuck in France. But it would be quite interesting to have them both rock up on a ski lesson. I don't know if it's going to happen, but
let's see if we can track them down.
Yeah, exactly. So
I'll pay for the lesson.
Yeah, exactly. They can have it for free, but I'd probably take my PE teacher somewhere extremely scary and see if I can make him release a chocolate hostage or something, just because he wasn't a nice guy. But yeah.
First question from the comments. Chocolate hostage. Adina. Now, Adina, what camera equipment and editing software do you use to create your videos? Good question, Adina. Now, I'd just like to point out that Adina, as well as being a ski teacher and a snowboarder, is also an actress. And you may have seen it in Sex Education on Netflix.
I've not seen it. I thought it was a bit beyond my age group to watch that.
Most definitely not, mate. Gillian Chops is in it. The bird out of, what's her name? The bird out of Adina, tell me what her name is and what she's out of.
Yeah, I don't know.
Go on, Darren.
So it does depend a lot on the productions, and I suppose it helped to understand where this has come from. I mean, when we started shooting the stuff for Ski School app, I had very little idea anyway. I'd made a few films just messing around on the bike, back in the day where you had a cassette recorder in your video, etc. Cameras are a little bit like chef's knives, I suppose. Most people don't have one. So I use a small mirrorless Sony for nice bits to camera and general stand-ups. I've got a DJI Osmo that is kind of like a little gimbal camera, which again is great for movement stuff. Not much in the way of GoPro, but also a little camera that I got last year was an Insta360 one, which is very good trying to give people a camera that don't know how to use a camera. And so if I'm doing a film shoot for a client, I'll quite often use a cameraman. If it's less of a budget, or it doesn't really work out like that, or it's a project that I can kind of shoot most of it myself, I will do it myself. And editing is done on Final Cut Pro.
Final Cut Pro. Okay, cool. There you go, Dina. I'm just trying to work out why our names have disappeared. I don't understand why. There you go, Dina. A few different camera options and Final Cut Pro. We've got loads more. Let's see what else we got. A little bit of a loaded question from last week's guest, Scott Dobson. what's your favourite ski from the Rosignol group, rather than what's your favourite ski?
Yeah, this is well, I've known Scott for quite a few years. I've skied a lot on. So yeah, if you don't know, I do quite a lot of film production for the Rosignol group. So mainly with Dynastar to start with, Dynastar Lang. The Speed Zone 16, I used to love skiing on a lot. It's still a great ski. I am a bit of a sucker for slalom skis. So the FIS Dynastar ski was a great ski, and the Rosignol. That's probably my ski that I will put on my foot most days if I'm teaching on piste. So it could be, yeah, the Dynastar FIS SL or the Rosignol one. They're both very good, Scott. You know that. You know that.
There you go, Scott. You can ask some more hijacking questions if you want, mate. This one is from Nikki, and Nikki is Adina's mother. She's not a TV star from what I understand, but she's asking, when racing on dry slopes, what did you use for wax? Andy always talks about Fairy Liquid and Mr. Sheen furniture polish back in the olden days. Days. What did you use?
Anything. I mean, it used to become a ridiculous thing where you'd be rubbing on all sorts of anything in layers, normally starting with a hard wax, going softer. We used to wax the side wall of the ski. We used to wax the edge of the boot. The thing with, if anyone's ever done this, you know, you put Mr. Sheen, anything on there, and the first two gates feel a bit like snow. And then it slowly, once you get rid of all the sort of stuff, the runniest liquid, you just kind of start slowing down. There used to be some dry slopes when they started doing a lot of the sort of having mists in the matting.
Yeah,
they quite often have water tanks. Now we found that actually, if you dip the skis in the water tanks after you've waxed them, it cools them down a lot, and it let them run faster for longer because the ski was colder and it wouldn't heat up as quick. But I think my favourite memory of all this, and I can't for the life of me remember what skier it was, but he was always going on about secret waxes and everything. And he came out of the start gate and there was these sort of two red tracks around the first 2 or 3 bends almost. Ooh. And we were like, what was this? And he'd actually rubbed strawberry jam all over his skis.
No. Yeah. Surely that can't have been slippy.
I don't know what he was thinking. I think it was a bit of a slight Mickey take because everybody was getting so obsessed with waxes. So there was one guy as well. He had 2 small pots with melted wax that he would have to put on as quick, and he drilled a hole through the ski and then stuck these little pots over the holes.
No, so they would feed the ski.
And he would melt the wax in, and just before he would go, I really don't think it helped him, because normally it would just set as it went through the hole. But the things it was a big important topic in those days. What you were going to put on your skis.
Every Sunday night at the Oval Ski Club was what have you got in your bottle? And when we used to go on, we used to do inter club races, so we would visit Rosendale, Kendal, Pendle, and all these different places. You saying your fondest memory was the jam story. My fondest memory was driving back, and we would have emptied our bottles because we used to have them things that you water plants with that you pump up, so you got pressure. Yeah. So we used to fill them up with water before we would leave Rosendale. And as we were driving out, every set of traffic lights we came to, we would pump them up and we'd squirt people who had their car windows open from the team bus.
Yeah, obviously I wouldn't do anything as irresponsible as that.
Anything like that, eh? So Alan, who is definitely on Snow Camp Europe and one of our regulars to the Skicast, excellent Learn to Ski videos, Darren, really helped me. Cheers.
Yeah,
Alan.
no, again, the feedback's been really good, and I think I haven't looked for a while, but I believe on YouTube now there are over 50 million views in total. It's pretty crazy, and I get people coming to ski from a little bit all over the world. Quite often, well, a lady from New York last year turned up, and I skied down to the meeting place, and she just looked at me and said, "You're a lot shorter than you look on the films." And then I took my helmet off and she went, "Oh my God, you're bald." I was like, like I'd lied on a dating sort of information or something. But it's what happens when you get a short cameraman. You always look taller.
When were they filmed? When was the ski app filmed?
The first ones now would have been 6-7 years ago, I think.
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know what the Ski School app is, which Darren is the face of, I'll show you in a second. We got one of the very short basic clips, but if you search on YouTube, then you'll find all of them. And when I had my leg accident 3 years ago, I actually spent the summer watching most of Darren's ski app videos. And as everyone else said, and Alan has said, they are extremely useful. But I'll just bring this onto the screen now. Just have a little watch, everybody.
The snowplow isn't about pulling the knees together and pulling the skis onto their sides. It's going to be virtually impossible and kill those thighs. Very uncomfortable. It'll also cause the skis to actually come together and cross. Another thing to watch out for is just simply turning your feet. Again, you're going to create the skis coming together, going to make it a lot harder. Leave the fronts, the ski tips where they are, and simply push the backs out nice and smooth. Don't force anything.
There we go, folks. That's the Ski School app. And I say, if you put Ski School app or Darren Turner skiing into YouTube, then you will find them. So next question, Darren, to keep you nice and busy. So Carl is asking, hello, Carl, what sort of people do you normally ski with? So who's your client base?
Really varied, which is nice. Very varied, but I would say they all probably fit into one box, and they want to cut through possibly confusion and would rather come to me for one-to-one and find out what helps them. What do they specifically need for them? You know, I see quite a lot of teaching on the mountain, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's quite generic. This is good information. This is bad information. But I suppose, people sat on that chairlift with me are willing and happy to find out what works for them. And I'm sure you agree, you know, there are right and wrong ways of skiing, if you like, or ways that make it easier. But if you can sort of customize that to the client so they finish, and one of my big things is, you know, I want to finish a lesson, even if it's a 2-hour lesson and I might not see that person again. They know what they need to do to get better, what it feels like when it is working better, what it feels like when it's not, and go away with some just very quite simple cemented sort of ideas that they should work on. It happens a lot, probably in a lot of industries, but it's a lot in skiing, where somebody maybe finishes a lesson and feels a bit, I don't understand that, or I'm not quite sure. I must be a bad pupil, as opposed to maybe looking at it was possibly bad instruction. I mean, I would say I probably keep things considerably more simple than maybe I used to. We've all done it as a young instructor. You go off on a tangent and you start talking, and you can see the confused look in people's faces. And that's something, if I do see that, you know, I quite often will say, you don't look like you're understanding what I'm saying to you. And we'll go through it a different way. Because again, it's extremely personal. And I think what I would try and do is, make people understand that
there's a balance.
If they're not quite sure what there's going on, let's look at it a different way. And I might have two people that ski almost identical, but the lessons for both of them could be totally different, because if I believe that my lesson has to change to the client all the time.
Okay. Would you say you spend more of your time with beginners, intermediates, or advanced skiers?
I would say it would go. I don't teach many beginners, and that's not an active choice. I think it's just that they maybe don't realize who I am, or they're not into it as much yet. Sometimes, very much from that sort of intermediate, advanced sort of area. And I think when you're a young instructor, you always dream that your dream is to ski with good skiers all the time. But to me, it's a lot to do with the people. I'd much rather be doing snowplow turns with somebody into it, wanting to learn and achieve, than skiing, I don't know, in Le Grave off-piste with somebody who's not that bothered.
I suppose if you're getting a good number of clients through the videos, then they're people who are already engaged in skiing, so they're probably beyond that beginner stage. Therefore, beginners aren't finding you because of the videos. Maybe.
And it's
Cool.
it's often, if I'm teaching a beginner, it will be a friend of a friend or somebody who's here in resort and has heard about me, as opposed to somebody who's maybe traveling here specifically for coaching.
Yeah, cool. Okay.
But it's good to change it up. You know what it's like if you teach the same level all the time, you are literally saying very similar things all the time. So it's,
exactly. Yeah, you want a bit
nice
of
to change.
variation. Ted, I am a very simple northern lad, and yes, I use the terminology bird. Sorry. It was Gillian Anderson was the bird in question, and she used to be in the X-Files. She's the main person, or one of the main people in sex education, which Adina is in. So go and watch it, Darren. It's good fun.
I'll have a look.
Yeah,
I might learn something.
It's funny. But then Ted is saying, and so much more. She's amazing. So the bird is amazing. Brilliant. Cheers, Ted. Thanks for your comments. Carl Meredith, I think we've got a question. Hi, Darren. What would your advice be to improve my skiing, as I'm going to get new equipment this winter coming? Chin chin. What would your advice be to improve? I suppose, Carl, Darren would need to see your skiing. Well,
I'm putting together a new project for the coming winter. I don't want to say too much more yet because it's not there. But if you follow me on Facebook or give me a little Darren Turner Ski Coaching on Facebook, then I may be able to help you, Carl. But yeah, it's a bit of a hard one to say what would improve your skiing without seeing or knowing. Definitely spending the time and getting the equipment, your skis, boots, whatever you're getting, make the right decision, and more importantly, look after it. And when I say look after it, service skis, overlooked by a lot of people massively, and get the right boots. I know you guys have been doing quite a lot on boots, so if you've been watching the past, you should know more than you did, but it's something that is often overlooked.
I think
get the right stuff.
Carl does follow you, I think, on Facebook, and we did talk about Carl's boots because, surprisingly, and I never knew this, and I know Carl relatively well, he is in an extremely soft boot. So as we said, Carl, sort your boots out for a kickoff. But yeah, maybe send Darren a bit of video of your skiing, mate.
Yep, put it in, because again, this is kind of connected to what I want to start creating next. So and so we're where I am. Yes, the man on the video is a ski school app, but it was my idea, concept, came up with it, but I'm actually nothing to do with it anymore. So that's probably why you don't see any more videos.
So just going back to our dry ski slope wax, Scott is saying Toco Silver Wax. I agree, mate. That's what I was using, but then Fairy Liquid on top of that, I think.
I do remember getting the silver fingers, which you always used to get.
Silver fingers. You did on your fingernails. Yeah.
Yeah.
God, memories. Right. Another question from the people who've sent stuff in. So Eddie's asking, what do you do in the summer months?
So mountain biking is my kind of summer sport activity, whatever you want to call it. And normally a lot of trying to drum up work. I mean, being self-employed and working in kind of film production, a lot of the summer months is maybe organizing. I'm doing a series, or I've just finished a couple of years ago, and we're trying to get some more done, some films in Sweden for the tourist industry. So there are a few films out there, me riding a mountain bike around Sweden and getting to do some weird things, a bit like a travel program, I suppose. But yeah, mountain biking is the thing. Working, some skiing, normally get a couple of weeks on a glacier somewhere with clients. Keeping myself busy and a bit of DJing still.
Really?
I've come out of retirement.
What, around where you live?
Yeah, in Serchavalia, yeah. So normally in some of the bars, not so much clubs because I'm an old man. I can't go out. I'll turn into a pumpkin after midnight. But yeah, still keeping my fingers on the vinyl.
And is it like classics or is it new stuff?
No,
Or?
it's no, not at all. I still play some records that are older than me, but yeah, funk, a lot of old funk that might move into a little bit more sort of breakbeat stuff with sort of funky house, maybe if it's a bit more that sort of thing, but all on vinyl. So people come out and go, "What the hell is?" My kids look at it and go, "What the hell are those things?" So
I think Steve, who must be watching, will probably appreciate some of the music you're playing. Steve, give us a comment if you think you would. Alan, wow, watched many times, so useful. I think he's referring to the Ski School app. Nikki is saying she's going to go out and buy some jam. Nikki, you don't ski on dry slopes. Nikki, you can't come to Capron with jam on your skis.
It could be on all the World Cup ski races next year. You never know. It could be a revelation.
Okay, I think we've answered this kind of, Jim. What's your preferred level to teach? I think Darren said kind of any level, really, didn't you?
Yeah, definitely. The person is the type of person that. Yeah, it's more about the type of person, but on depends on the day. When the conditions are very good, obviously you want the good skiers. There's nothing worse as a ski instructor than doing snow plows and watching your mates whooping in 60 centimeters of fresh snow. But yeah, the person's the thing.
Alan's back again. Great to know. 1-to-1, been to twice. Okay.
Well, give me a look up next time you're here.
Yeah, get in contact. Go listen to him DJ, Alan, and tell us if he's any good.
Yeah, that's it.
Carly saying thank you, Darren. The debate on the old dry slope wax. Remember using maize and floor polish. Never helped but smelled nice.
Yeah, well, there you go. There you go.
Carl Meredith is saying pledge. I was Mr. Sheen, you were pledge. Okay, so back to the pre-asked questions. Tom's asking, any tips for skiing powder? Now,
go on. Were you going to say something?
Before you say that, we just happen to have a picture of you skiing some powder. Look at that.
Yeah, and I believe that is on a set of telemarks as well.
I was thinking it was telemarks.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which I used to do a lot of telemarking. In fact, one of the first seasons I did in Serchavalia, I was a ski guide for a hotel. So I stuck telemarks on as a kind of way of keeping it a bit more interesting for me, because obviously I wasn't teaching, so it didn't really matter what I was on.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, tips for skiing powder. I think what messes a lot of people up, again, is this idea that it's something very different. And if I've got, let's say, I don't know, somebody's got a bulletproof technique on piste, that transition to off piste is a hell of a lot easier. Anxiety, when people feel a little bit nervous, which somebody trying to learn to ski powder and they've got that self-doubt in their head that they think, can I do it, can I not? They'll often try and snatch the turn because of that anxiety and chuck the skis round. The skis slow down, you kind of get the impression you're going over the handlebars. So really trying to slow that turn down. One of my little lines, I suppose, is float to the fall line. So just trying to get this feeling of floating to the point the skis downhill and letting that turn finish. Keeping moving, keep the rhythm going. And if you make a bad turn, don't analyze it. Keep going. And I say, be childlike almost. If you think about a kid skiing, they can make a horrendous turn, and by the time they're halfway in the next one, they've forgotten about that. They're not thinking about it. So many people get in powder for this first time and will make a mistake and stop and then start thinking and then go again, not feel right. And it's just so important. Just keep going. I'll often shout at people next to them and just say, turn, 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 just giving them that almost an audio sound just to keep them going, because the way you learn to ski powder
is by skiing powder.
Yeah. So if you stop every time a turn doesn't feel right, you're stopping that learning phase. So get in it.
I'd skied for many years and never had the opportunity to ski powder enough to be able to ski powder. And I was lucky enough to be able to go to Aspen Snowmass extremely cheaply in 2000 because I had a friend who lived there. And I was there for 10 days or 10 nights, and it snowed 8 nights in a row. So every day was blue sky and powder, and every night was snow. And by the end of that trip, I could ski powder.
Did you buy a lottery ticket in that week? Because that's pretty lucky to.
It was unreal,
that.
and not only that, it was my birthday week as well.
Well, there you go.
Bonkers.
That sounds terrible, but you've got to get in the stuff and ignore these ridiculous advice of lean back, which is something that people are told, but I think as well it makes sense to them because potentially they've snatched at a turn, slowed down, they feel like they're getting thrown forward. So the advice lean back might resonate or make sense to them, but that isn't the problem. It's not because they're leaning forward or centered, it's because they're snatching at the turn. Yeah. So yeah, get in it. And also I sometimes still have skiers that ski on, for example, have a pair of piste skis on their feet, and if it is off piste or there's some good snow, kind of get in their mind that they can't ski it because they're on piste skis. Yeah, the ski on your foot is the best one.
That is a good saying. So that was Tom. There you go, Tom. We did have Mark ask Scott a couple of weeks ago or last week about. He actually said, "Do you agree with Andy that there is one ski for everything?" And Scott did agree with me, albeit he did use the caveat of if you've got the skills, then you can do it. I do find, again, a lot of people will say, why are we skiing powder on piste skis? It's like, well, we're not going to go down and change our skis, you know?
No, and again, it's this idea of I want to maybe get a ski caddy where the guy just follows you around. If you've got the money, you could maybe employ this guy. He'll have a metal coat on, and you can put those magnetic plates that go on the roof of your car for your ski rack. Yeah. And I'm going to do some short turns down here now. I'm going to. You know, I think I would rather be on a pair of piste skis, for example, and if the moment happens where I do 20 turns off piste, to me that's a better way of doing it than I've got maybe all day on piste performance to ski all day on a maybe something that doesn't perform as well on piste just for those 20 turns.
Yeah.
But I think if you're trying to get your head round skiing off piste or softer snow, having a wider ski is definitely going to help. But don't become blinkered to the fact that you can't ski off piste if you haven't got the right ski on.
Yeah. Yeah. Good advice. And Alan is also agreeing. Brilliant. Cool. So next one. Mark is asking, Darren, what is your USP? Do you have a certain way that you teach? Do you have a methodology, such as people like Harold Harbs? Old Harold Harbs, right? Okay. So for those people who don't know, Harold Harbs says you do not need to learn to snowplow. You should start skiing carved parallel from the onset. Darren?
Well, why you said that? Yeah. Do you know what? That is great advice from Harold if you're only going to ski on a green wide slope. And my simple response to that is, how the hell are you getting these people to understand how they control their speed? Mm-hmm. But let's not go on there. Yep. I have had words with Harold on the past when it comes to YouTube, because I you know, it's fine to have your own opinion on things. Great, run with it, but you don't have to poo everything else in the meantime. But that's another story. Do I have you? I think because I've done a lot of years of doing very much one-to-one or 2-3 people, small amounts, trying to work out that person as quick as possible. Now, a lot of people don't realize it, but when I start a lesson, I normally have a chat with them on the chairlift to start with. I'm obviously going to see how they ski. So their actual problem skiing, I'm going to see very quickly. But for example, that 10-minute chat on the chairlift to me is very, very important to try and get an understanding of what sort of person they are, what works for them, what other things they do, how I can relate the information to that individual, and hopefully, yeah, get a lot better results because of that information. As I mentioned earlier, I could have two people that ski virtually identical, but the lessons could be very different, because I try to make it as personal to them, and yeah, try and build the trust. I think a guest or a client has got to trust the instructor. You've also got, I think, put people in the right mindset to learn, which is building that relationship as quick as can, making people feel comfortable, feel that we're here trying to ski together rather than just having somebody shouting orders at you and giving you just information, and also knowing when to stop giving information. I think it's very important. I think as a young instructor, you definitely think if I give somebody 15 things, I'm giving them more value. And actually what you're often doing is just overloading the brain. And I'd rather give somebody 2 solid things that they can then go away and work on than trying to bombard them with a million things. Video's good. Video, I find, is so useful, and I don't tend to stand on a slope and have someone ski down to me. I normally film often in slow motion and ski behind them very close, and potentially look at just what the skis are doing. Once you're actually watching what's happening, at the bottom and what the skis are doing, you can often relate to maybe a problem they're doing with their body position or something else. But when you can actually go that close and see what your feet are doing, I find that a lot more useful than, I don't know, when you've got a dot coming down the slope, and trying to analyze anything. Yeah.
So one of the other questions, I think a little bit later on, was do you utilize video analysis in your coaching, which obviously you do. Yeah, for sure.
You do, but again, I think and it comes back to what I was saying about trying to personalize it for people. It's really good for some people. Some people that are sometimes struggling with confidence, if they see themselves ski and it actually makes them think, oh my God, I'm worse, a lot worse than I thought. And they get this like depression about it. It can be a negative thing. So I think, again, it's that knowing when to use it, when not to use it, and trying to give people the skills that they can go and practice. Because again, a lot of skiers think that it works. I give the information, then they change instantly. It doesn't work like that. They need to go and get mileage. I think I say in one of the films, practice makes permanent, and that's, you've got to get the mileage in. And better off practicing something very straightforward and simple and feel when it's working than skiing down thinking about 4 things. It just doesn't happen like that.
Yeah, for sure. Totally agree. Mileage. We say to a lot of the ski teachers, once they've done their level 1 and they're going to train for their level 2, it's like, go away to your resort now, and on your day off, don't ski on piste and ski as much mileage in the worst conditions as you possibly can find on the mountain, and you'll become a better skier. Mileage. Yeah.
And bad snow. I mean, this is bad snow is a true show of a good skier. And obviously people often don't realize the guys on the World Cup, the actual snow they're skiing on is bulletproof hard stuff that would make a lot of skiers that you would consider to be skiing gods would make them look really bad. And powder being one of those things, great wind affected powder that's light and easy to ski isn't that complicated. And a lot of people, when they see new snow and they maybe get all excited and ski off, if it's been wind affected or sun affected, or it's very hard to ski. So they get that mindset that off piste is, I can't ski off piste, whereas it is just a different snow type. I hope that answers the question.
I think so. Now here's an interesting one from Mark. Mark, we've had a Mark already. Is it the same Mark? How much time do you spend on your fitness / keeping fit, if at all?
Well, the mountain biking is probably a big part of that. I'm certainly not my pleasure of biking, let's say, is definitely gravity led. So I do pedal up a mountain and happily pedal up a mountain for, up to sort of 2-3 hours sometimes, carrying the bike, trying to get out into the wilderness. But I'm definitely going up for the coming down. So
Downhill.
I'm not somebody that shaves their legs unless it's a special party, but that's another story. And most of my pre or after ride warm downs might be with a cold beer in my hand. So yeah, keeping up the fitness. Tend to do as it going into the winter. I tend to do a little bit of things like squats with weights, a little bit of stuff like that. Because again, none of us are getting any younger. But the main part of cardio and things is definitely the mountain biking. And don't do that many days on the lifts, sort of just downhilling. But the amount of people that have never done it and kind of go, "Oh, downhilling, that must be easy." I will challenge them to do sort of 5 hours of descending on a bike. If you're actually going for it, is very tiring. A bit different to just pedaling, let's say, but it's a workout.
Rigorous, I would have thought. I've not done it myself, but I would have thought it's quite rigorous and also mental.
Yeah.
You've got to concentrate. Eh?
Yeah. I mean, again, the consequences when you crash, which I've found out a few times, badly. I think the worst I did, I managed to break about 6 bones in one go in Italy a couple of years ago, which wasn't great. That put me on morphine for about 4 months, but the consequences are a lot worse when you're doing 40 k's down a single track with rocks and trees. So you do tend to be focusing a lot, which is tiring in itself, but it's more of a body workout, upper body, legs, upper body, everything. So that's my fitness.
Good stuff. Jim is asking a question in the comments. If anyone has got any more questions for the comments, then just throw them in, because we are getting close to the end of the session. But Jim is saying, what's the funniest thing that ever happened in your skiing career? Being on a ski cast with Andy Rose. Whee!
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a highlight now. I can't go back. What's the funniest thing of my skiing career? There's been quite a few in the past. I don't know if I've got time for 2, but there's a reason.
Take your time.
Well, when I used to work in the ski school, we were on a small drag lift, just looping around. I was teaching children, and I was kind of putting this course together. Went around some cones, over a lump, around a corner. One of the other kids, he wasn't in my group, said to the instructor, and he was about 12, I think, but he said, "I need to go to the loo." So he went off. There was a restaurant just next to us. And this is quite a few years ago, when they used to have the French squatter loos. So anyway, he went off. 15 minutes later, he came back down. As I was digging one of the jumps, and kind of every time he went past me, I was a bit like, "Philippe, he smells quite a lot." Now, this poor kid, in his haste, had run in there, I think, gone on one of the long drop toilets. And this is another reason for not buying a one-piece suit, but he'd actually had the poo was in his hood. So he came running in, but as he was skiing, I don't think he smelt the offensive turd. But yeah, I don't think he gave up skiing, maybe, or at least never bought a one-piece suit again. So yeah, that was quite a funny story.
That makes me think of the Red 7 ski wear. Their slogan is, there are some places snow should not get. There are some places that poo should not get. And that's the hood of your onesie.
Need to be skiing around. It looked like King Kong's finger hanging out of his hood. It was just disgusting. But yeah, and actually on the very same drag lift, we were teaching a beginners group. Again, this is years ago, but we had an instructor at the top of the drag lift and one at the bottom, which is the best way when people are starting. I explained to all these English beginners, this is what we're going to do. And this poor lady was going up the drag, and she was holding, the pole so tight that the button, or the actual bit that you sit on, was about 1.5 meters behind her bum. And my French colleague, in his best English, shouts out, "Let it slide through your legs and come on your bottom," which made about 20 people lose their control. So, yeah, there's some funny things you can do with the language as well. But there's a lot of these stories, but we haven't got time.
Fantastic, unreal. I think this is the first ski cast since we started. I think we're on number 8 or 9, where we've had Pooh commented.
Yeah, no, I don't mean it's nothing weird about me. Honestly,
Darren has
it's not that.
Right. Couple more questions. We are nearly up to the hour mark, but let's throw in a couple more because it is quite entertaining. Yeah, it's a good one. From Jane. Hello, Jane. Jane's asking, do you see that a lot of people come to you, they all have the same issues with their skiing? And if so, what are the most common ones that you see?
Yeah, it's quite rare to have something really unique. Sometimes you get it with people that have maybe got slight physical issues or old accidents where you've got to kind of almost not bodge, but change sometimes, that maybe from a manual in ski technique, it's maybe not the right thing. But I have had some people with, one leg 2 inches longer than the other, etc., and things like that. So sometimes you've got to do things, but quite often, posture is the key, and sometimes changing someone's posture slightly gets rid of a lot of other issues.
Mm-hmm.
So it's certainly something that you see quite often that people can get better at, is just working on that posture. A lot of the top World Cup guys do hours of training on very, very simple terrain, just slightly adjusting how they're standing. And that might change because maybe they've changed equipment, or they're trying a different setup of skis. So for me, it's the first place to look. A real common one as well is people having nanosecond breaks, or T breaks, as I kind of call them, in between their turns. A lot of people, even pretty good instructors, or can have a tiny point where there for a split second nothing's happening, and it can often make each turn feel like they're very very independent things and individual turns, rather than actually flowing down the mountain. And people going stiff, a lot of people hold a position and go slightly rigid, and just trying to get people to sing almost and breathe when they're skiing down does often really help. Yeah, and I think Brits can be, I think, sometimes too much of analyzers, and really think that they have to look a certain way and ski down a slope in a certain way, and yeah, there are times to work on your skiing, but sometimes I say to people, just ski down this slope, have a laugh, remember why you did it, and if you what does work quite well is just saying to them, you've got a couple of runs in the morning, or an hour and a half of your warm up. That's the time to maybe think about stuff, and then start to put it in the back of your mind and just ski a little bit. You're doing it hopefully because you enjoy it, so don't forget to enjoy it.
Cool. I'm glad you said sing, because Nikki, who's asked a couple of questions, Nikki, I'm not the only person who makes you sing. There you go.
Yeah, just anything to take your mind off it. Sometimes when you've got those people.
Yeah, nursery rhymes, singing. Now, something else you just said then, what I was going to pick up on. So what I find as well is on the internet at the moment, and the internet or YouTube video platforms, whatever it be, they're fantastic, but there are so many people putting out skiing content that is so up there, technical, biometrical, physiological, and it's beyond, I would expect, 99% of the skiing public. And I think a lot of the skiing public watch it and therefore get confused because it's so complex, where skiing is actually quite simple, that we're going down a hill and we're turning left and right and left and right. which sometimes I get
Yeah,
confused with my left and right. But
well, yeah, well, I have noticed that. But yeah, it's often overthought about, and often, and you know, people, yeah, things have changed a lot, and ski technique has changed, but also a lot of the elements that were true about skiing from 100 years ago are still relevant. And just being able to connect the movements, enjoy it, and something doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't mean it's easy, but something doesn't have to be complicated. And one of the reasons, in fact, when I started doing the original videos for ski school, one of the main reasons for it was I watched a lot of films out there, and I was a bit, now as a ski coach instructor for most part of my life, if I'm confused, what is the average Joe gonna be doing? And again, a lot of the people won't have the experience to go, do you know what, that's way too complicated and I'm lost. They'd almost blame themselves and maybe watch it again 2 or 3 times and then go away with it and sort of still be a bit confused. I mean, I had a guy last year, good skier, fell straight into this bracket, and he thought he had to ski a certain way. I'll be sort of brief on it, but he felt he had to ski this way. This is a way that he's been told, shown. He'd watched videos. He was a bit of a geek for ski technique. Now, when the slope fitted the way he was skiing, he skied well. But what he couldn't do, it's almost like, I sometimes speak to people, you've got like a graphic, one of those old graphic equalizers for things like pressure, edge, rotation, all these things. I don't want to go techie, but it's like somebody put super glue on his sliders, if you like. And when the terrain was right for how he skied, great. But he didn't have that ability to change. But it was a misconception on his part. He thought that's what he was trying to achieve. And that's one of the best things about the job. When he had that light bulb moment, it's literally, he was a big lad. He kissed me and picked me up, which was a bit disturbing.
Nice.
But no, you get this feeling that I think your brain's got to understand what it's trying to do first. And I think sometimes when people start throwing words out there about various things, it can almost confuse you.
Yeah,
more than you think.
Sure. Okay, one last question, Darren. One last question. It's from Rachel, and Rachel's asking, who is the most famous person you've ever coached?
Oh, I've had a few. Dermot O'Leary, I taught.
Cool.
What was the other guy's name? Is it someone Vernon? Who's the
Vernon
guy that used to, Vernon Kay?
Vernon Kay, yeah.
My personal favourite. Well, my personal favourite was probably when it was a bit of a surprise because
Cilla Black.
Louis Armstrong. No, Richard Ashcroft from the Verve.
Okay.
So he.
No idea who he is, but I've heard of the Verve.
Yeah, so he was the lead singer in that, and then when they were quite big. But the funny thing was, I didn't know he was going to be the man. So he just turned up, and it was funny. We went into a bar in Chevalier afterwards and had a beer, and the guy behind the bar went, "Who does he think he is? Someone out of Oasis?" Because he had a bit of a rock star about him. But it was quite funny because this guy had no idea who he was. But yeah, so a few people, minor celeb, but other minor celebs. I've not made it. No, Dolly Parton's not been here or anything. But
brilliant, good stuff. Well, thank you very much, Darren. Another brilliant ski cast, as far as I'm concerned. Very entertaining. Plenty of questions and comments, as always, from everybody at home. Thank you very much, folks. We will be back next week again. I will announce with whom in the coming days. But thanks, Darren. Any closing words from you? Any little summary that you wanna give the people out there watching?
Well, yeah, just get out and enjoy skiing. I think it's been a funny time within the world for the last, since sort of, January or whatever. It's been crazy. So support the ski industry. I think it's going to need it. Everyone needs a little bit of help, and I'm hoping that the industry will kind of stay strong and move forward in a sensible kind of way. But get back on the skis. A good day skiing. You can forget about COVID, Brexit, anything you want to forget about. So get back on the skis and hopefully see you next year. But yeah, definitely follow the Facebook, because I'm going to do some stuff for this coming winter, which I think could be quite interesting.
Yeah,
So,
just before everybody goes, so Darren's website is insightski.com, and then you'll find him with Darren Turner Insight Ski on Facebook. Go and follow. We understand that, or I understand, not everybody wants to come to Capron every single winter. You are looking for other
I want to
places.
come. I'll come up, Andy. We'll go for a ski.
You come to Capron and I'll come to Sir Chevalier, albeit I do have a kind of issue with traveling into France. Not the biggest fan.
Is that because there's too many French people?
Well, the thing is, saying that, and we are going to finish, but Sir Chevalier doesn't look that French to me from what I've seen on your videos. So
it's a very underestimated resort. So it's the fourth biggest ski resort in France as a standalone ski resort, and nobody, especially Brits, haven't heard of it really.
It doesn't look like Avoriaz, Morzine, and these concrete jungles.
It's not an accident I've ended up staying here, and we're 25 minutes away from Italy, which gives it a nice added twist. So it's a great ski area. A lot of people come here with not massive expectations and it becomes their favorite ski resort. And Le Grave's 40 minutes away down the valley. So if you need a big mountain experience, it's not far away at all.
So there you go, folks. Go and see Darren if you're not coming to see me. And if you've been to see Darren, come and see me. Easy.
Exactly.
Easy. Loads of people. Mark is saying, great interview. We watched Darren many times on YouTube. Hello, Mark. Alan, thanks a million, lads. Very good. Thank you. Jim, thanks, Darren. Cheers, Jim. Thanks, man. Thanks, Andy. Way, brilliant.
Well, nice one. Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me. And
Alan, very laid back, large ski area is good. Yeah, cool. So we're going to wrap it up.
Right.
Thank you very much, Darren. Don't go anywhere.
No, thank you.
And we will have a little chat. See you next week, folks. Andy from Snow Camp Europe with, where is he? That way. Darren Turner from Insight Ski. What a brilliant hour that has been. We will see you all next time. Bye for now.